podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How We're the podcast. And we know these type of things mostly get done at the end of a season or around the start of a new year. But we looked at Sunderland being 11th in the Premier League, just less than 4 years after beating Wycombe Wanderers at Wembley to get out of League One. And we sit on 43 points with 7 games to go and just 6 points behind 5th place and reigning champions Liverpool. So in this break, we thought it would be good to look at the top 10 moments of the last 12 months to remind ourselves a little bit of how we got ourselves here. And also, hopefully, have a little bit of fun along the way as we'll rank them as well along the way as we go. So I have a couple of trusty steeds to help me along and help me again with my aging memory while we're at it. And first up, we have Andrew Smithson. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, mate. Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone. I thought we were doing it now because we've just had a year of How the podcast, and we're claiming credit for all this success, aren't we? And surely the relaunch of the pod was what prompted Sunderland's climb to the top.
Yes, it is. And stop calling us Shirley. Yes, it is. I'm sure it was like the 6th of March or something last 2025 was our first one. It's a good shout out, actually, Andrew, because we're, of course, well over 400 episodes now, which just shows how ridiculous that is, that on days we've actually been doing 2 episodes, of course, on match days and things like that. But yes, it has been a roller coaster. And actually, that's a really good shout that we've timed it. We didn't mean to time it like that, of course. That would have been clever on our part, and we're not that bright. But yeah, I mean, just thinking about that, I mean, just again, since we started the podcast, though, it's been a hell of a roller coaster, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's been a phenomenal year. There's just so many points. And again, as is always the case when we line up this type of rundown, there's always loads of other options that could have easily made the top 10. I mean, just before you hit record there, you mentioned a game at the Stadium of Light where we came from behind to win. I'd forgotten clean about it. You know, just there is always something new and good happening. I'm loving it. It's a great ride at the moment.
Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. And like you said, I mean, look, at some point we might well do a podcast about the longer term, because like I said, it's ridiculous when you think about it. It's just less than 4 years since we beat Wycombe Wanderers at Wembley, which is just nuts to see where we are now. And also joining us today, we have Johnny Hawley. Hello, Johnny.
Hello. I thought we were going to start doing a top 10 most silky footballers when you started breaking out trusty steeds there. You had us flashing back to, cigarette smoking wingers from back in the day.
I know. I do apologise to anyone who expected a smooth French accent to come on there and me to be interviewing our ex-midfielder there and talk about his career. Unfortunately, we're not. But I think actually I'm happier talking about these events of the last 12 months, Johnny, because like I say, what they all add up to is something ridiculous. But actually, when we get into it, sometimes the way we've done it, and of course, we're going to go back through some of them ridiculous memories, but the way we've done it, we haven't just kind of swatted people aside and won 6-0 every week or anything like that. I mean, it's been a proper drama all along the way, hasn't it?
It's probably the only thing about this period of time that you could still relate to almost being typical Sunderland in a way. We're going to go on the most wonderful magic carpet ride again and, fly up, get promoted, be great in the Premier League in the first season, but you're still going to have your patience tested and your heart rate, spiked through the roof along the way and have to wait until the very last moment on many occasions. So, yeah, even the new look Sunderland can't resist giving everyone's pacemakers a good working over, can they?
Well, Andrew, I mean, I want to try and take my kind of, Sunderland specs off for a second because, talk about that roller coaster and people who watched Sunderland Till I Die, of course, and people all over the world watched that and saw, the mess we were in and all of that. But, and I'm genuinely trying to think about it, and I might think maybe only Wrexham can match the sort of ride we've been on. I mean, I don't know if you can think of any others.
Oh, that's a good shout. Certainly at this present moment, it probably is us. I mean, a few years ago, you might have said Leicester, but yeah, you're right. I think we probably are we're certainly the club that everybody's talking about the most. I'm already starting to hear one or two people getting a little bit fed up with the Wrexham thing, and well, they can't really class themselves as underdogs when they've got like two world famous stars bankrolling them. But yeah, I think probably, of course, I'm going to say this because of my red and white tinted specs, but yeah, Sunderland probably are the club who've had the most spectacular upturn of late. And at the moment, there seems to be a lot of neutrals quite happy for us. There's a lot of fans are saying, "Hey, I wish our club did things the way Sunderland were." So, long may it continue, and hopefully, this is just the start of even more to come.
Yeah. I mean, Johnny, just on that, there is something in the way that we've done it because, people, as Andrew said, look at the Wrexham thing, the Wrexham story, the way they're doing it. And look, those two have just, they can do it. There's nothing against the rules and all that to get their Hollywood sponsorship in and get these companies in because they know people or they've got, Hollywood A-listers to be able to advertise them. So they've got that in their locker. So they're using it. Fair play to them. But if you look at go back to how much we spent in the championship to get out of that and that we had to do it properly, data-driven signings, like Sir Ross Stewart was a data-driven signing. That was basically the month that these owners came in. But the way we've done it, where we've tried to build on foundations, we've tried to do it sensibly, we haven't overspent, we didn't gamble anything to get promoted, we were just building. There's something in that, isn't there?
I think it's wonderful. The whole context around everything that we've done over the past year is when everything kind of crystallized and became seriously real. And obviously you get the promotion and you go to the Premier League and everything kicks into high gear. But you're right. I mean, right from the first sort of day that they walked in the door, really, and got the new recruitment set up and top of the club all, everything all lined up. I think the way they've gone about it's been as positive as a way they could possibly have gone about it and still found success. So we haven't had dodgy investment, cough, cough, people down the road. We haven't had, we haven't
Don't
had
get Andrew started.
Yeah, we need to keep on topic, don't we? But, we haven't had any particularly questionable investment. We haven't had the kind of, like you say, there's nothing wrong with having massive investment compared to the level like Wrexham come in, but does put people's noses out of joint. We haven't had that. We've used our academy extremely well, and I think no fan base can ever really be critical of a team that promotes youth and develops youth. We've done that. We've sort of traded, if you think of it that way, player trading rather than transfers, because we've been, as you say, bringing players in, low money, recouping higher fees, using that to build up. It's all been done sustainably. Like, purely in a footballing sense, the ride's been amazing. And then you zoom out and you go, actually, everything around it's brilliant as well. And it is nice to be able to sit now and look back a bit on what we've achieved and be able to, take it all in the round and appreciate not just what a good job's been done, but the way that job has been done. I think you completely spot on. It's been brilliant to watch, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we think it's a good time to maybe take stock of those last 12 months because, as I said, it'd be interesting. It's kind of nice to do it before the outcome of this season because who knows what's going to happen in the last, 7 games of the season when we get back going again. But let's get into our top 10 and we're going to do them in order of how we rank them when we put our averages together. So we can keep you guessing what we've maybe got in top spot until the last minute. And we're going to go with our 10th place. Then you can let us know as well if you think we missed any out because there was some nearly ones in there, like the Liverpool one, of course, the last minute that could have very nearly been in if Isidore had gone clean through and finished that, but that just missed out because in our number 10, and it was number 10 for all three of us, we have the Manchester City game on New Year's Day. It was one of the best 0-0s. I think you'll see in terms of, but we will come on to another good draw later on. Funnily enough, but for now in our 10th place, we'll look at Man City and Andrew. To take on Pep's Man City side, and we've had some decent wins over Man City back in the day. Some last minute winners and all that sort of stuff. Some famous ones, but again, this just shows what this Sunderland side's all about, doesn't it? Setting up as the way they did.
Yeah, exactly. Our strength has been how solid and how organised we are, and to stay like that against a team with such attacking threat, who just a few weeks before had beat us 3-0, it just had all the ingredients of what you like. I think there was a few meaty tackles, and Sunderland fans like to see the players dig in. I don't know how we'd cope if Sunderland suddenly turned into this like entertaining side that were winning 4-3. I don't think we'd cope with it. I think we prefer Sunderland to be solid and resolute. It was a good performance. I mean, I dare say the reason we've all got it at 10th is we've got higher standards now, and this was just a point, not quite good enough compared to some of the results. But isn't there something weird about whenever you go to the stadium, there's always something happening as well as the game. 9 times out of 10, it's Luke O'Nien. And on this occasion, he's squaring up to a goalkeeper who's about 20 foot taller than him. And you just think, this is Sunderland. This is what I want from going to games. We've dug in, we've got a point, everyone's happy. There's a bit of aggro. And also, I think the fact that we've got a point against a team as good as Man City, one of the big factors this 12-month period is our home form's been phenomenal. And that just continued that for a little longer. And it's great turning up at the stadium and knowing that you're going to get a decent effort out of the lads.
Yeah. But I think they knew they were in for a game, Johnny, because actually you go back to, and Andrew mentioned the 3-0 defeat at their place. And I thought for the first half an hour until we went behind, we were absolutely fantastic. I mean, it sounds crap that you say, oh, well, we ended up getting beat 3-0. But I thought we were fantastic at their place, and we restricted them to long-range shots, and one of them took a deflection and ended up going in and completely changing the game. But I think kind of some of the players thought, actually, we kind of owed them one a little bit. But again, it was, I suppose at this point, we were still in that unbeaten stage of the season at home, and we got into that rhythm, didn't we? We got into that rhythm of just making sure we stayed in games, because there's another one that we'll come on to. That was a month or so before. But yeah, and we came out of it with the Leeds draw as well just before that. That people were maybe slightly disappointed about. People were surprised how good Leeds were. People might have been slightly worried about it, but at this point we were in the top 7, and just another fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was. And you're right, actually, when you mentioned the game at the Etihad a few weeks beforehand. We were good for that first 20 minutes, half an hour. And then, like you say, it was a bit of a sucker punch almost that did us. And then after that point, obviously, it's much easier for them to dominate the game. Whereas this one, the home leg, if you like, we were just exceptional defensively throughout the whole game. I mean, I can't remember whether it was Alderete and Mukele at centre-back, I think, wasn't it? They both at least played anyway, and I remember both of them at various points in the game steaming into challenges with Haaland. You know, that was like a feature of our play through that game, and that was something that was really encouraging. I think it felt like a bit of a marker of where the mentality of the club had gone to, that we lined up against arguably the best centre-forward in the world, if not certainly the best in the Premier League. And we went, no, actually, we're going to match you up. We're going to send our centre-backs into challenges with you every 50-50. We're going to go for you. We're going to try and control this game as much as we can. And we created chances at the other end as well. I mean, Robbie could have scored. Trey Hume had a couple of half chances. Like, it felt much like a few other performances on this list. It felt like a real statement that, no, we are good enough to be here. And we're not just good enough to be here, we're good enough to compete. So it doesn't get much higher on the list, at least for me, because it's not even the best Stadium Alike game against Man City on New Year's Day in the Premier League that I've ever been to. So it gets a little bit marked down for that. But yeah, it was a great game, wasn't it?
And we'll move on to number 9, because I half mentioned it there, but we go back to November, 8th of November. And it was the 2-2 draw at home to Arsenal. And Andrew, I just thought, talking about being up for it, because Arsenal were an absolute machine at this point. And I mean, they still are in some respects. the way that they're playing maybe wobbled a little bit, but at this point, they were just rolling over sides week after week. And we matched them up, didn't we?
Exactly, yeah. Wasn't there that bizarre stat that they hadn't even conceded a shot on target for a number of weeks? So for us to score twice against them, and they were both great goals in their own right. I mean, Robbie's was a bizarre finish, but he managed it. He showed great strength. And yeah, at no point did we look overawed. We just looked perfectly at ease at that level. Arsenal, when they did nudge ahead, I'd not seen them celebrate like that for ages. They really thought they were in a battle there. So it was brilliant. Sunderland stood up because we scored two great goals and had those really great celebrations. I remember when Ballard scored, it went mental. That's why it's slightly higher than the 0-0 against Man City. But something you have mentioned there about how against City and Arsenal we steamed into tackles. We've always had players who don't mind a tackle. The problem is sometimes they didn't know when to leave it, and they could maybe be ever so slightly headless chickeny. Whereas Mukiele and Alderete, it's almost like they say to Labris on the morning, "Are we allowed to tackle this week, Gaffer, or not?" And he'll just say, "Yes, thumbs up, get yourselves stuck in." Or he'll say, no, lads, I want you to stay on your feet." And they're like, "Right, no problem." So, yeah, we've had decent results against Arsenal previously. Sometimes there could have been an element of fortune there, whereas on this day, we just look so assured, so controlled, and any team that gets a point against Arsenal this season can see it as an achievement.
Yeah. And this point kept us in the top four as well, Johnny, looking back at it. And actually talking about the Man City one following the Leeds game, this Arsenal game followed that Everton game where actually we were quite poor first half and we needed to pick it up to get a point off Everton, a similar pattern. But again, as Andrew said, the stats behind people not even have a shot against Arsenal, and we go into the break 1-0 up.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? It felt like a real statement of, not just a statement of intent, but a statement of quality from Sunderland, where, as you say, again, about the steaming into challenges, Andrew, it's not just the fact that the players are, running in and trying to hoof people. It's bravery from Labris to trust that his defenders are good enough to be able to do that. And then it's bravery from the players themselves to back themselves enough to think, I know when to go and put my foot in. I know when the right time is. I trust myself to execute correctly and not let the team down. And I think, games like the City game, games like this Arsenal game, I mean, the Arsenal one, less so for trying to handle a centre forward because they didn't have a Haaland type focal point, but we were able to create stuff against Arsenal that other teams weren't. And I think a large part of that was because we were brave enough to back ourselves. And as you say, at the time, we were flying really high in the league, Chris. We were up in the top four, which is mental. And it was, we keep saying, don't we, there's a big difference between the current Sunderland and the old Sunderland. The old Sunderland would not have had the bravery, the quality, the tactical ability to go into a game against a team as good as Arsenal and take the game to them. And I think we did that a lot, which was, it was brilliant. The atmosphere was fantastic as well, with it being a Saturday evening game. So
electric, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. And then cherry on top of that is not only did we equalise, it was a last minute goal. It was, Brobby's weird acrobatics to stretch and get to the ball. It was all such a great evening of football, just in general, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, we all had that one in 9th, so that one goes 9th on our list. Number 8, we go all the way back, and I almost started feeling the nerves as well as I mentioned this, but we go all the way back to the first leg of the playoffs last season, and that's in number 8. You two both had this actually in number 8. I had it a little bit higher in number 6. But yeah, honestly, I was going, oh God, playoffs, because obviously this came on the back of losing the last 5 games. I think we'd won 2 in 10 in the build-up. We hadn't won in 6 because we drew the one before that losing streak to Norwich. And Andrew, again, I felt jittery just going, oh God, playoffs, and going to Coventry, who were absolutely flying. And they've shown this season as well what a good side they were. But we had a game plan, didn't we?
We did. We had a game plan, and not only was it Coventry who were in form and have continued. And by the way, if you ask anybody neutral, they come out with this rubbish that Coventry somehow deserved to beat us. I don't know why they come to that conclusion, but it wasn't just the fact they were a good team. I don't think we'd won at Coventry in was it? A lifetime.
60 odd years or something, I think.
Wow.
Something around that.
Yeah. So yeah, there were all of these things against us, and yet we turned up. And like we say all the time about these players, they just must have looked at each other and gone, "Yeah, what's all the fuss about, man? We've got this, lads. Don't worry." And yeah, played really well. It was great to see Isidore getting back on the score sheet because he'd had a bit of time without any goals. I can understand why you've got it a little bit higher, Chris. You know, I've got no problems with that. The only reason for me it's not quite as high is it was only half time in terms of the 2-legged semi-final. That was the only thing for me. But it gave everyone a confidence, and that weekend ahead of the Monday game, the whole mood shifted from flipping heck, Coventry are going to do us here, we've been in awful form, to suddenly, actually, we are half decent, lads, we've got a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, I was looking back. It was that run went back to 1985, of course, when I think it was John Moore who scored that goal to beat Coventry at Highfield Road all the way back when. But Johnny, I had this a little bit higher, I think, mainly because of that my end of goal. And it's almost that I look at that and I go, and I was tempted to put it higher because that my end of goal for me means everything else can happen after. That's the goal that gives us the cushion. And you look at the way the game swung and our game plan, that we had something to really build on at the Stadium of Light in that second leg, and going in with a draw would have maybe given Coventry a bit more confidence. And who knows? But I just think that my end of goal looking back was so important.
Oh, it was, yeah. I felt harsh putting this only 8th on the list. But I think, like, personally for me, when I'm evaluating stuff like this, I'm always thinking, like, but what did it actually mean? And winning that game was amazing. The moment was great. It meant we took a lead to defend the second leg, but it was only half time in the tie. Whereas, the end of the second leg means, we're going to Wembley. The end of the final means, oh my God, we've got promoted. So I think I tend to weight that a little bit higher than maybe some other people do, which is why for me, it didn't quite manage to sneak higher up the list. But I think you're both spot on again with the way that you've kind of described why it was such a good moment. And it ended the record. We'd been battered there in the league as well, hadn't we? 3-0 not that long ago before that game. And the aspect of the fact that it was Isidore and Mayenda who were the two lads who got the goals as well was great. It must have set Mayenda up with so much confidence going forward, and obviously we know where that led to in late May.
If that doesn't happen, then does the Wembley moment? It's just sliding doors moment, isn't it?
Exactly, and it was huge. It was massively important. I think it was a real shot in the arm for us, wasn't it? Because you mentioned the bad run, confidence wasn't exactly high. So to not just win the first leg, but win it away and win it with a late goal, it was a brilliant moment. It's just, for once, supporting Sunderland's been so jam-packed full of good moments that there's other ones that can go above it. So it's not the worst position to be in, is it?
Talking about that bad run, it was all in the Brisk master plan. He knew what he was doing. Don't worry about that. But yeah, next up, so that Coventry away game was 8th in our list. So we go to number 7 in the list, and we go to the 25th of October, which was, of course, Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge. And just to go through it, Johnny, you had this at 6th, and Andrew, you had it in 7th. I had this 8th, and I think I'm going to say this with every moment on here. I was tempted to put it higher, but of course there was others that were higher, and I just couldn't fit everything in at number 1. Unfortunately, I did try, but unfortunately I had to split them out. But yeah, start with you, Andrew, on this one because again, I mean, talking about this ride that we've had. This win against Chelsea was, of course, on the back of beating Wolves at home a week earlier. So beating Chelsea put us up to 2nd in the table. And I can remember feeling a little bit giddy after this win.
I think you and I might have did a reaction pod, and we did. We kept stopping each other halfway through and just going, just double check the table again. I did say that, didn't I?
You did, because I remember listening and pissing myself laughing every time you said it, because it was all I was doing at the time as well.
Yeah, this era, this era was only a flipping couple of months ago, but this was the period when we had gone from it's just the promotion bounce to Sunderland haven't played anybody decent yet, to then suddenly hang on, they've just gone to the World Club Champions and beat them. Maybe Sunderland are quite decent, and maybe this is more than just a flash in the pan. So yeah, I'm not surprised we were in a bit of shock, because this wasn't part of a plan. Nobody was predicting Sunderland to come into the Premier League and find it so easy. And it was just, another game where we looked comfortable. And beforehand, I think Aldrete was out injured, and there was panic about, what we're going to do. Oh, no bother. We'll just put Hertruder in and he'll do a cracking job and we'll just continue as normal. It just seemed every single week Sunderland passed another test. They were behind as well in the game. They conceded an early goal, and how many times have we seen Sunderland crumble? But no, not a bit of it. I know Chelsea since then have been a bit patchy, but they're a quality side, and we've just gone there yet again, done the job, and the fact that winning 2-1 away from home at one of the most successful teams in the country isn't even in our top 5 just says what a mad period it's been.
Yeah, absolutely. Johnny, I mean, Andrew talks about that period. It was actually going from Brentford in late August all the way up to the Arsenal game that we talked about in November. We went on I think we lost 1 in 9 games or something during that run. Just quickly looking at it there. And again, we'll talk about Regis Labris. This was a tactical masterclass at the time, and we showed it. I mean, of course, we've done it in Newcastle again recently, which I'm sure might crop up in this conversation. But to go behind at Chelsea, and you could see Chelsea at this point, their fans, they half celebrated this goal. It was like, yay, we've taken the lead, 3 points at Sunderland, game over, 4th minute gone at you, right, jobs are good, and right, what's next? But we how many times have we seen Sunderland roll over and just go, yeah, we'll accept it. As long as it's not a cricket score, fine. But we didn't. And then, that last minute breakaway was just ridiculous. You almost thought you were dreaming before the ball went in the net.
Exactly. I could not agree more. It didn't feel real on sort of the immediate moment where you're like, oh my God, we've just scored.
Actually, even before that, Johnny, I was going, oh my God, he might score here.
Yeah. So I was away that weekend with some of my old uni mates in Lancaster. So we were in the pub all day that day. So my updates were essentially Soccer Saturday, right? So I couldn't watch it live, which was the only reason that I was fuming about this game, because it ended up being so good. I wish I'd been able to sit and watch it. But
Johnny, nobody watched it live because it was a Saturday 3:00.
So, sorry. I mean, as with literally everybody listening to this podcast, I was gutted not to be able to watch the game live, except the people in the away end. But so we were sat in the pub, and I was having a chat with someone, and then one of the lads just nudged us and just went, "Oh, you're 1-0 down, by the way." I looked at my phone and went, "It's 4 minutes past 3. What? What are you talking about?" So I exactly like you say, I was like, well, here we go. That's it. Floodgates are open. We're going to get battered. I'll just forget about football for the rest of the day. And then we equalise. And then, we were sat watching Soccer Saturday. They flash over to Stamford Bridge. You're like, oh my God, what's happening? The goal. Unbelievable. But then watching it back, I think you're right you mentioned, Chris, about the sort of the tactical display from Lebris. That was a phenomenal performance from the manager as well as the players. The system we played, the way that we matched Chelsea up in midfield at times. The performance from Lebris was fantastic. The way that we matched Chelsea up midfield, popping forward, dropping back, players positionally moving around a lot. That was a difficult system to play, and we played it very, very well. And the reason that I put it a little bit higher than you, I think, is for me, that was the day that I went, oh, well, we're staying up then. But just no doubt about it whatsoever. Like, if we're turning up at Stamford Bridge, don't forget as well, this was Chelsea who not long ago had won the Club World Cup, won the Conference League. They still had Maresca in charge. It's not Liam Rossini's Chelsea we turned up and beat. With all due respect, that for me was the performance, the result, where it took us in the table, just all taken into context. I was like, that's it. I'm comfortable now. We're going to be absolutely fine. And luckily, proven right in the long run, because it would have been quite humbling if we'd managed to cock it up from there.
Well, I'm glad someone was being sensible and keeping their feet on the ground, because me and Andrew were on the pod saying we're qualifying for the Champions League or we're going to challenge for the title or something ridiculous. We were getting properly carried away as per. But anyway, I think before we get into the top six, that's a really good chance for us to take a quick break. So we'll be back very soon.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
And welcome back to How We're the podcast. And we're just about to get into the top six best moments of the last 12 months to see how we got into this fantastic position. We currently sit with 7 games to go, 11th in the table, just 6 points behind 5th place Liverpool. And in 6th place, we go to the opening day of the season when we took on, at the time, Graham Potter's West Ham United, and just in our position. So it was 6th overall. But let me see. Johnny, you had this in 7th. Andrew, you had this in 5th. And I had this in 7th as well. But yeah, Andrew, on this one, I mean, I'm just trying to count here. You might give me a few seconds, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players who made their debuts on the day, and had been building up to this unbelievable event. We'd had the excitement of the summer. We'd come off the back. Our last, competitive game was that goal at Wembley, and all of the excitement that went into it. This was the first time the fans really got back together for a competitive game, and just everything around it, wasn't it? Just screamed that we were back.
Yeah, exactly. It was a beautiful day, just in terms of, like you say, everything around it. I think it was nice and warm, but not too hot. Do you know what I mean? Just like, we're getting really picky here about what we need for a good day.
Well, stick 1 degree on it would have been perfect, but
Well, yeah, but
we're not nitpicking, are we?
it just kind of summed up to me that, yeah, just everything was kind of going Sunderland's way. And by the way, quite interesting that so far in this countdown, I don't think any of us are too far from each other in these rankings. They're all fairly similar, so that's pleasing. But yeah, all of those new players, and you're walking away from the stadium afterwards, kind of like arguing about who's going to be your favourite and who's the dark horse already for player of the season or for like best bit of transfer business. Normally you're walking away making excuses like, oh, well, let's give the new lads time to bed in. Let's not panic yet. I know he's been nutmegged and scored an own goal, but give him a chance. And I just, I don't know. There's always going to be nerves, always going to be question marks, particularly given how our last spell in the Premier League had ended. I think, though, the transfers had made you start to think, oh, maybe we mean business here. But then to play like that, it just dispelled like any lingering notion that we were just going to be whipping boys. You could just see straight away. And it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't like we'd nicked a couple of goals or whatever. We played well and we played Premier League football. So I just such a relief. And the first day of a season can always like change your mood completely, but it meant that we built on that enjoyable summer and couldn't wait for the next few games.
Yeah. I mean, talking about having momentum straight off the bat, Johnny, and talking about sliding doors moments as well, because, my end opened the scoring around the hour mark. And actually that first half I remember was you'd probably argue West Ham shaded it in some ways that we weren't completely second best, but if you would say, who maybe had the better of it, probably West Ham had the better of that first half in that game, and we grew into it. But even sliding doors moments like Jensen Sealed started off at the back and was looking sharp, and then he goes and gets injured and replaced by Alderete. Who would have known if Jensen Sealed had gotten running the team? I mean, it's all these things at the start of the season. And Graham Potter, he's probably thinking back to that first half, thinking if Jared Bourne had stuck one away, what would have happened to his West Ham career? But after getting that win, this was the win that just was the springboard for everything else for us.
Yeah, that I was just going to mention that Jared Bourne chance. Like on another day, in another reality, he scores that early doors. The mood turns in the stadium alight. We get beat. We gun down. West Ham stay up. Graham Potter's still in a job. Like
I've seen it before.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. We've all seen it with Sunderland, haven't we? So yeah, it is. I agree with everything Andrew was saying and yourself about like the day itself was brilliant as well, wasn't it? Like sunny, beautiful, warm. Everybody was happy. Sunderland was rammed before the game because everybody was wanting to get in amongst it and feel the atmosphere, soak it up before the game. I think
the club did a grand job as well, setting it all up.
Yeah, club did a good job. It wasn't too Americanized either. But yeah, no, so like all of that went into making it a fantastic day. Like just start to finish, everything that you would want was amazing. But I have to be consistent with myself. I couldn't put it higher because it was Graham Potter's West Ham we beat. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to big up the Chelsea result because it was Maresca and not Rossini, I've got to be fair and admit that. Yeah, if that had been a Nuno Espirito Santo West Ham, it could have been a very, very different occasion. So
could have been 6-0.
Yes, yeah, we could have reached double figures maybe. But yeah, I just think I've got to be consistent, so I couldn't put it any higher. But what a day!
And next up, so that was moving up to 6th place, but we do have a strange thing that happened when I put the averages together for our top 5. The next 3 I'm going to go through, we're in joint 2nd. They all came out the same. So I did say that I was finding it hard to split them, and we are, because between the 3 of us, we've got 3 in joint 2nd. So the first one, I'm going to go in chronological order. The first one that came in joint 2nd we're going to go about is the signing of Granit Xhaka that came in the summer. And I'm going to start with you, Andrew, because everything that went around this, the speculation, the build up to it, the kind of supposedly the negotiations that were going on where we were just going up and up, and everyone thinking, nah, we'll never get him. And it was some day when it finally happened, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. And you said there we kept going up and up in terms of our fee. Even then, I think, wasn't it only something relatively cheap, like 16.5 million? For a player of that quality who's had such an impact.
Should have bought him twice.
Yeah, it was staggering. I'll take you on a little road trip, if I might. The drive back from Wembley, the kids are in asleep in the back. They're passed out, just overcome with emotion from the day. Me and me mate, you start talking about what our chances are. Are we going to have a crack at the Premier League? Who's going to be good enough? So you go through the squad and you count maybe 5 or 6 lads that they'll make the step up, and the rest bless them. They've faced every challenge so far really well. Maybe they'll come good, and with a fair wind, we could be 15th or 16th. And then as the summer goes along, we're getting linked with goalkeepers costing like tens of millions, and you're thinking, hang on, we're not just making up the numbers here. We're going for this. And I think we signed one or two players, and they had a decent pedigree, but you maybe didn't know they could cut it in the Premier League. And then suddenly we're linked with one of the best-known footballers in Europe. Is it fair to say? Certainly one of the best actual performers. He might not be a flashy character these days, but just such a brilliant fit for us. As soon as we were linked with him, you thought, yeah, that'll work. We made it happen. I think as soon as he then signed on, it made other players think, oh yeah, I fancy a bit of that project. And we used to joke over the summer, didn't we? Whenever we were linked with anybody after signing Xhaka, somebody would say, well, we'll sign Xhaka. Why not? You could have linked us with anybody, and somebody would have said, wait, if it's good enough for Xhaka, you never know. So it was huge. I mean, he's brought a couple of his mates along, Nordi Mukiele and Truder as well, and they've worked, and we've gone from this squad that on that drive home I was thinking, yeah, maybe a few of them can do the job, and the rest of them are triers. We'll give them our best support. Then suddenly we've got a squad full of international players and players with silverware and players with Champions League games, and Xhaka coming was the moment where the mindset changed with our fans and with other fans. So it's pretty big.
Yeah, but it was a moment, I think, that changed the perception and changed the mindset and almost kind of broke that mental block, Johnny, that we maybe had. And, especially with the last, 2 seasons of the promoter clubs getting relegated, but also maybe a signal to the players who were already at the club, where they were thinking, great, I'm a Premier League player now. And then almost they might have realised that the club was accelerating quicker than they could keep up with the club and where they were going. And it was, they probably had an argument to say, right, I want to try and get into this squad. And maybe when they saw Granit Xhaka come in, they thought, actually, I'm going to get left behind by Sunderland. But it was just a signal to everyone that Sunderland just weren't happy with just staying up.
Yeah, it was again like a massive statement of intent. You can almost split the Kirill era at Sunderland into before Xhaka and after Xhaka, can't you? Because as Andrew says, as soon as Xhaka walks through the door, that's it. All bets are off. Who knows what's possible now? Like at the time we signed him, and I said this probably a million times at the time as well, he had just finished 16th in the Ballon d'Or. So by one very, very widely accepted measurement, he was the 16th best footballer on the face of the planet, basically. And it's a bit European-centric, but you know what I mean. And for him to walk through the Academy of Light doors and go, yep, Sunderland's where I want to be. I want to commit myself to this club for the next few seasons. Because it wasn't like it was just a little one-year deal of, well, we'll give it a go, and if it doesn't work out, everybody can walk away. He was committed from day one, wasn't he? I mean, we all talked at the time about the supposedly being all these promises of, don't worry, there's a pathway for you here, and we see a long-term future for you at the club, and all the rest of that. Who can say anything about our chances of staying in the Premier League after that, really? I said how the Chelsea game for me was the moment where I went, okay, we're fine, we're staying up. The Xhaka signing was sort of the equivalent of that moment in the summer. As you say, Andrew, you look at the makeup of the squad we had and the players we'd already signed or targeted, and you go, oh, okay, this looks decent, this looks promising, we can make something work here. Then Xhaka comes in and you go, oh, well, that's it. They're not targeting 17th, are they? They're targeting way higher up the league table than that. So it just meant you could dream. The excitement was massive. There was no limit. As soon as Xhaka comes in and puts his name to Sunderland, you know we're a different club than we were. And yeah, that was just such a pivotal moment for us.
Yeah, it will be interesting in like 5, 10 years' time when people look back at the day Xhaka signed and say, what did that lead to and what was that the catalyst for? And actually, just on that, so Johnny, you had that in fifth. Andrew, you had that second, and I had it in fifth as well. But the next one that was joint second, and we've talked about it a lot lately, of course. But we go back to December because it was the win over the visitors. And actually, Johnny, I'm going to start with you on this one because the whole thing that went into the package for this, just everything. I mean, so the game actually, it was an awful game of football. Look, if we're completely honest, almost just take the game of football out of it and just stick everything else in around it because basically the only thing that happened really in the game from memory, actually, you might be able to remind us on something I'm missing because all I can remember was Voltemade, doing his thing in the box. Unfortunately, it was the wrong one. Unfortunately for us, and yeah, and it was one of those that we were getting the results, we were doing fantastically well, but again, just as much, I thought, even on maybe a bigger scale than the West Ham game, this screamed that we were back.
Yeah, this was so symbolic, wasn't it? It was the win over Newcastle, with the win over the visitors.
I was going to say, I was going to correct you there.
The win over the visitors that I think we all desperately, desperately wanted, which was always going to be a massive sign that Sunderland are back. Because one of the sticks that we'd been beaten with for all of those years, getting relegated twice, scrapping around in League One, then scrapping around in the Championship, it was always, oh, well, Newcastle's in Europe, Newcastle's doing this, they're the richest club in the world. You can't even play games against us because we're not in the same league. All that shite that we had to listen to from them lot for years. And then at the first time of asking back in the Premier League, we beat them. You could not ask for it to be better than that, could you? For it to be Voltemade scoring the own goal was hilarious. I will say, Chris, you have forgotten a monumental moment from that game. Bruno Guimaraes celebrating a throw-in. I mean, that was obviously such a huge piece of action.
I was panicking there. I genuinely thought I forgot something.
Well, it was clearly important to them at the time, wasn't it? But yeah, it was, as you say, the game of football was terrible. It's hilarious that it was an own goal, but for me, that does slightly devalue it a little bit. I mean, maybe devalue is the wrong word, but for me personally, I put the other game against the visitors higher than this because we scored the goals. We scored the winner. It's just a little bit sweeter. Don't get us wrong, the schadenfreude of watching Voltemade after he had just stuck it in his own net was fantastic. And we're talking, the margins are razor thin here between what are your top moments because the best ones are all phenomenal. Like, there's not much between them. But yeah, symbolically, this one, for what it represented for us, returning back to the summit of English football and putting ourselves above Newcastle again and restoring order in the derby. Yeah, you almost couldn't have scripted it any better, could you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Voltemade own goal, £70 million striker or something, sticking it in his own net. I mean,
I think he's technically still Sunderland's most expensive goal scorer of all time.
I'll take that. But it is, Andrew, that Johnny's just touched on there, that we were away for so long, went to the depths of League One, pulled ourselves all the way back, and we just picked up where we left off in terms of beating them.
Aye, no to bother. Doesn't matter. The world can change. We can have a pandemic. All of this, we'll still beat you. I love the fact that Johnny's there saying, "Oh, you know what? It wasn't quite the same because it was an own goal." And in the past, it was beggars can't be choosers, and you would have snapped somebody's hands off for a win against that lot. Whereas any moment now, we'll be talking about the merits of another win in the last couple of months against that lot. And I personally thought it was hilarious it was an own goal because you just knew they would cry about it. But hey, Johnny got more pleasure because we scored 2 great goals in the away game. What a brilliant position where me and Johnny might fall out about, no, this win over that lot was the better win. But yeah, it was a statement. I think I said in the other top 10, where we ranked various wins over that lot. it was the first time since the cup debacle. I think the first time since the takeover where we showed ourselves to be on a even footing, and the whole summer was bluster from them. 6 easy points for the Mags. Apparently, Sunderland are not going to get a point all season, and then suddenly they started panicking and making excuses. And you've not played anybody yet. Well, we have, because we've played you, and you're supposedly the best thing since sliced bread, and we've beat you. And again, pre-match atmosphere, the club got perfectly. The visitors crack on the scoreboard.
The photograph.
Yeah, all this thing, that might look petty to an outsider, but when you know the meaning behind it and what that is saying, it's massive. They didn't lay a glove on us, and to go from years of being the butt of their jokes and the let's all laugh at Sunderland and all of that, we then end up on a day where we remind everyone that you'll never kill Sunderland off. We have been to the depths and we've come back. You'll never get rid of us. We will always keep coming back, and you should never look down your nose at us.
Yeah, but we've had some crap owners who have really tried to kill us off.
True.
But yeah, so that was in joint second, like I said, along with Shaka, because we all put the Mags at home, or the visitors at home, in fourth place. The other one we had in joint second, you probably won't be surprised to know, was beating the hosts at St James's Park recently. And Johnny, you had this in third. I had it in third. Andrew, you had this one in sixth. But Johnny, I'll start with you on this one because, Andrew, we talked about the photograph that we took when we beat them at the Stadium of Light. But I thought the genius of this was the fact that we didn't do that again. We showed them how, crap, how stupid that is by doing it to them. But then we repeated the fact that we beat them, got 6 points, and just went, yeah, well, it was almost like swatting them aside. We didn't even do the fuss of another photograph. We didn't do anything like that. We just said, we just did the thing, got out of there, didn't need to take the piss anymore because we'd done that the first time and showed them how ridiculous all that is. And we just went and did it again.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, and we did it with our reserves. Let's not forget, we had so many players out injured. We had Lafay was only fit enough to come on for, 10 minutes at the end or whatever. Ronaldo the same. Michele was only on the bench. And we just turned up and went, you can have a goal as well. You can have a goal after 10 minutes if you want.
All part of the plan.
Exactly. Like after all the years of, because despite the fact that them lot would always pretend that they didn't know who any of our players were for the last 8 seasons, they all seem to know Luke O'Nien's name enough to bring him up constantly to try and take the piss out of us. So for O'Nien to turn up and go on then, you can score. You can go 1-0 up. Don't mind that. That's fine. And then we're still going to beat you anyway. And we're going to have the youngest ever goal scorer in a Tyne-Wear derby. And we're going to have the latest ever goal to win the Tyne-Wear derby as well. In front of your own fans. And just to wrap it all up together beautifully with a little bow on top, it's basically killed their European hopes as well, hasn't it? Or certainly Champions League. And they just got absolutely demolished off Barcelona 4 days before as well. So I think they managed to lose something like 9-3 on aggregate that week. Which, between Barcelona and us, which is just amazing. Just pouring misery after misery after misery onto them lot. While we, like you say, almost just go, well, for us it was just Sunday. We just turned up, we won the game, we nick off with some points, we laugh at you lot. The players coming out the tunnel laughing at the Newcastle fans, trying to intimidate them. We just took the piss from start to finish. So I think for me, it just squeaks ahead of the home one because the home one meant more to us, but the away one, as a day, was more pure joy and enjoyment because we just completely embarrassed them in basically every way, and they disgraced themselves with the fan behaviour as well. So yeah, just amazing. We'll be talking about that day for a long, long time.
Yeah, and the fact we're doing what we're doing now in terms of bookmarking this almost with the last 12 months, we're going to look at this, Andrew, as the cherry on top of a pile of cherries, on top of a pile of nuts, on top of a pile of hundreds and thousands, on top of a pile of a big thing of cream, and then a big gigantic cake underneath, can't we?
Give us a few minutes to get through all of that. That's quite the big helping.
I'm hungry now.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was phenomenal. The only reason it's lower down the list for me is we learned nothing new from it. We've
It's
seen
routine. It's
yeah,
routine.
yeah, we've seen it all before. It was just 3 more points at the end of the day. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, obviously that's a little bit of a dig at all the mags who convinced themselves that Barcelona was the biggest game of the week, even though the behaviour didn't back that up. But maybe there was an element of truth to that, I suppose, because we didn't get sucked into the occasion. As Johnny said, we were like brazenly laughing at them at some points. But another reason why I didn't have it that high was we're already safe. We've already beaten them. I think we were just getting greedy by Sunday now, and yeah, listen, the points might take us into Europe. How do they pronounce it? I think they spell it.
Europe.
Yeah,
Europe.
they spell it O. I think they spell it ROP at the end. So that'll be nice. That'll be a lovely thing if come the end of the season, the points we take off them puts us into Europe for the first time in ages, because that would destroy them. Congratulations, by the way, as well to Sandro Tonali. Really nice to see him, because horrific injury. He wasn't able to play at the weekend. I mean, looked bad for the kid, but hey, he's since been able to play for Italy, so that's great powers of recovery. That was pleasing to see. The late goal,
the Italian NHS must be absolute miracle workers, mustn't they?
yeah. Him and Bruno, for some reason, the hard man, didn't fancy a bit of it on Sunday, and Joe Linton did his hard man act as well, but it was just that it was an act. Like Johnny said earlier, it kind of proves his point. There was another late goal just to keep the dodgy tickers going. But I'm loving it. Great day. So much has come out from it afterwards. And a few people have said every time you catch another highlight, you'll see something that you'd missed earlier. And I don't know if anyone else has picked up on this, but in the build-up to the winner, when Lefay's got the ball on the byline, the electronic hoardings behind are for PIF.
Yeah.
And then he passes the ball, the screen goes blank for a second, and virtually the second the ball hits the back of the net, the rest of the PIF advert comes up and it says, invested in better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Sunderland invested in better because Wissa played, Walter Marder played, they cost, I don't know how much money. And here we go. There's our BB, our Brian Brobby, who cost a fraction of that. Aye, there you go. And I'll just pop a goal in there, win the game, cost a relative bargain compared to those. And then afterwards, when I get interviewed on the TV, I'll just be the most relaxed, laid back fella in history. Aye, great.
Yep.
And we'll move on. That's it. It'll happen again. Happy days.
Well, like I said, it shows the 12 months we've had when you've got this in sixth, best moment that we've had over the last 12 months. But as I said, so that was the last one we had in joint second. So the next two were joint top. So we couldn't split the next two between us. So again, I'm going to go in chronological order. So our first one that was joint top spot was Coventry at home, Johnny. Of course, that playoff second leg. We talked about the first one. And I mean, if the nerves got going on the first leg, I mean, bloody hell, I'm still feeling it from extra time in that game.
I don't even know what to say. Like, how on earth do you try and sum that up? using words. Like, the fact that it was as late as it was meant that I think every single person in that stadium knew almost for a fact if we didn't score from that corner, it was going to penalties, and if it went to penalties, we were going to lose. Because all season, all we'd done was miss penalty after penalty after penalty. It was like almost supernatural, wasn't it? We had like 3 or 4 different takers at different times. It was just a mess. So, well, yeah. Wilson Isidore at Burnley being sort of the prime example of our penalty woes. So I think we all knew like that was it. That was the last chance saloon. And I don't think any of us really expected us to score the corner. So then, Lefay kisses the ball, puts it down, it comes in. Plenty of movement inside that box. Ballard. Even the way that it went in, the way that it like hits the bar, then drops, then bounces into the net. Like you've almost got that half a second where you like 40,000 people are just willing the ball. Please go in, please go in, please go in, please go in. Like, and then the noise that erupted. I don't think I've ever heard the stadium like as loud as that. And I highly doubt that we'll hear it as loud as that again, because it would take some set of circumstances for a goal to do that to us again. Because if everything that went into it, like all those years that we'd spent in League One, in the Championship, that was the goal that we're one game away from that being over. The context of the game, our penalty record, the fact it was Coventry, just everything that went into it. And then what a thumping header as well from Ballard. The way that he contorted himself as if he was almost a folding-up deck chair, like getting his head onto the ball. Yeah, I think it's the best moment that I've ever seen at the Stadium of Light. Pound for pound, with all things considered. It's going to be, if we ever top that, then we're having a hell of a time as a football club. And I think that says it all. Like, just what a fantastic 10 seconds that was from corner, being ball put down to swung in to headed into the net. Like, if you could bottle that feeling, you'd be a multi-billionaire overnight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, people talk about, how did this happen? And, a lot of pundits said Coventry were the better team on the night, but forgetting that there's more ways to skin a cat, Andrew. But yeah, I mean, people ask how this happened. I mean, of course, I put this down to Leo Hjelde coming on in the 120th minute, changing the game.
Oh, of course. And I'm disappointed that it's taken this long in a top 10 of the moments of the last however many months to mention Leo Hjelde. It's not right. It's not right. Johnny, yeah, I think I'd agree with what he said in that. Was that arguably the best moment, the best 10 seconds in the Stadium of Light's history? I think it probably is. And everything that built up to it, again, we've said this a few times now, was just right in the way the club got everything perfect. I mean, the fans were lining the coach route, and the renaming of the West Stand. I actually think that in itself is a really important moment. When people say, "Oh, we've got our club back," or that the owners get it, and you're not quite sure what that means. Well, renaming the West Stand the Montgomery Stand just kind of tells you what that means. There's a unity and an understanding of Sunderland's identity at the moment that is amazing. And then the TIFO, the whole Till the End campaign, all of these things all come together and lead to that night of nerves, but that moment when it just goes off the scale. And that footage and the commentary, I think Frankie Francis, his commentary goes like worldwide.
You mean R2-D2, not Frankie Francis?
Gary Bennett, as Enzo is kissing the ball, Gary Bennett just says, Dan Ballard. And then Dan Ballard scores. So that clip has just gone worldwide as well. Everybody talking about it, and just bedlam.
Yeah.
Utter bedlam. I was there with the kids. I know I always talk about the kids and it gets boring, but a couple of them were meant to have exams the next morning and they should have been going to bed early, but nah, no chance of that. They were buzzing, man. They were off the, just hyper. And it was a lovely warm night again. And we were like, right, we're going to the sheepfolds and we're in that crowd coming away from the stadium, and Hayes Street is just this mass of thousands of people, happy and joyous and can't quite believe what they've seen. I mean, you talk about last minute goals. We scored a last minute goal at St. James, but then still had like 6 or 7 minutes to play out. Literally, that header goes in, Coventry restart, and that is the whistle. So everybody's like, they can't quite believe what they see. We go to the sheepfolds, they have a drink of pop and just everything, man. Just mint. Just mint.
Yeah. And you just reminded us there talking about having exams after games when you were a kid. After we got relegated at Sellers Park in 1997. Was it 1997? I had an exam the next day, so travelling back up that day, I remember being pissed off, just thinking we've just been relegated and I've got an exam the next day.
I blame Sunderland because the playoff final at Wembley, I think was I at college? I can't remember, but I had something in the days after that were just a write-off because I was an emotional wreck. At least my family, my kids, I'm always telling them, oh, flipping heck, you've been to Wembley a million times and seen us win. I had to wait till I was in my 30s or whatever. Oh, you've beaten Newcastle every time we play them. I had to wait years. My exams were ruined because we lost. Your exams are blooming brilliant because we've won. Just what a time to be fallen in love with this club, man.
Yeah, and we carry on because that one, Johnny had the Coventry second leg in second. I had it in second, and Andrew, that was your number one pick for best moments of the last 12 months. We go to the other one, which was joint first. So I had this in top spot, Johnny did, and Andrew, you had this in third. Was of course Wembley. And Johnny, Andrew was talking about the fact that we scored that last minute goal and it didn't go to penalties. Because let's say we did win on penalties, then do we still have that, till the end spirit that does what it does at Wembley?
Well, whoever came up with till the end, just absolute genius. We want to get them checked for sort of clairvoyant powers of predicting the future. Yeah, as you say, it's been a theme of this list, hasn't it, where you can evaluate the moments, but it's also what they lead to. The Coventry home moment, like you say, the Ballard header, it does infuse us with a massive amount of belief, I think, and just so much positivity. Like, everybody was absolutely buzzing. Like you have said, like it was huge for setting the mood going into that final. But I kind of lied before. I said there's razor thin margins between all these top moments. I've lied because for me, Wembley's so far clear of everything else in this list. It's actually not even funny. That was the best, unequivocally the best moment of my entire life, bar none, by some distance. Like, that 8-minute soliloquy that Gav did in the aftermath, where he went through sort of everything we'd been through in the 8 years and all that, you know what I mean? That's why this is number one. This was the moment that all of that was washed away, wiped clean. That's it. Sunderland are back. We're going to the Premier League. There were so many moments, especially during League One, but even at times in the Championship, where I was genuinely thinking, I've watched Sunderland's last ever game of Premier League football, or, the last game of Premier League football in my lifetime. And then, we went 1-0 down. We almost went 2-0 down. Maender equalises. You start having a bit of hope. But then, you're in stoppage time. You're not expecting us to go and score. And then Watson picks up the ball and he drives at the goal. And I still remember, like, the goal from shot to hitting the net as if I'm watching it right now in slow motion from the seat I was in at Wembley. Like, there's not many things in your life that are so important that the imprint onto your memory that strongly that you can put yourself back there exactly where you were and see it again. And this is one of those. I must have cried for about 20, 25 minutes solid once that went in. I just disbelief, relief, joy, excitement, the exorcism of the ghosts and demons of 8 years of pure misery just lifted out of your body all at once in that instant when the ball hits the back of the net. And then the fact it was Tommy Watson and all the stuff around him, and it was basically his last kick in a Sunderland shirt, Kiefer Moore turning out to be man of the match for Sunderland, etc., etc., etc. Ladles just more and more and more positives on top of what was already, just by virtue of what that goal meant for the promotion, was already one of the best moments I'll ever see. But yeah, I could talk about that for hours because that was unbelievable. If I ever feel half as good as that again, my life's going all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Johnny's talking about what it means, Andrew, but that it meant everything in that moment, of course. But 9th promotion to the top flight, 5th promotion to the Premier League. But in the context of what it might mean for the club and a new era for the club, because let's say we just came straight back down. Let's say we finished on 15 points and came straight back down. Then it dilutes that moment. It dilutes that day. You'll always remember it. It'll always be then it'll be a fantastic weekend instead of a fantastic moment for the club.
Well, yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. And I think that's why, for me, the semi-final is just a little bit higher because, as Johnny rightly said, for the Stadium of Light to go off like that is unlikely to happen because of the nature of finals being at neutral grounds or winning the league. You might, I mean, if we ever win the Premier League, what a mad suggestion that is.
But you can tell how good this 12 months has been. That you've just said that with no hint of irony.
Yeah, but it might be that you kind of have an idea you're going to, unless the league is decided in the last 2 minutes of the season and you're at home. I don't think the stadium will ever witness that level of jubilation. So yeah, this Wembley day, magic as it was, could have maybe just been a pleasant memory had we gone down, or could have just been a weekend on the drink had we not won it. I would have laughed though. You know how we did the countdown and we hadn't actually said what the shortlist was, Chris? I would have loved it if at the end you just gone, and finally, joint number 1, Palace 0, Sunderland 0. Just none of us mentioned Wembley. We even take wins at Wembley for granted these days. I mean, we had the hoodoo there for years. But it was a bit surreal for me because I was quite calm and assured beforehand, and I had no doubt that the Briss would have had a plan for us. As the game went on, it got a bit nervy. But again, the second half, we came out in the second half and there was just something where I just thought, it's happening here. Even when we weren't creating chances, I had this belief that, no, we're getting back at them here, and it's coming. And yeah, the scenes at the end were great and never to be forgotten, but I'd been to Wembley at last and seen us win. When we won the League One playoff, I didn't know what to do because I'd wanted to see Sunderland win at Wembley in the flesh, and I'd never had it. Whereas at the Championship playoff, again, all these things, we're just becoming so blasé about it, man. We're just, oh, do you remember the win at Newcastle? Which win? Do you remember the win at Wembley? Which win? We've got all these lovely little memories to go on, and it was a great day. It was special, and again, I know I bore people to tears talking about my family. So if you two want to cut my mic now, I think I'll just continue anyway. You can wrap up the pod. But kids have been coming to the games with us for a few years now, and sometimes I wonder, for a start, why am I dragging them through it? I mean, am I some sort of horrible, horrible dad? But you think, are they as mental as I was and as weird as I was at their age? Or do they just enjoy the day out? Do they just like a day out with the family and they get like a nice bit of lunch beforehand and it's all fun? But during the second half, I just looked over at them and the youngest niece was crying because she thought we weren't going up. And me eldest, we had a near miss and like she just grabbed me arm and squeezed. I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, what have I done to these girls? I've ruined their lives. But then at full time, me best mate's there as well. You know, a lad I've known for years. I love him to bits. We've been through so much. So I give him like a big hug because I'm a bloke. I can't tell him that I love him because that would be embarrassing. But to hug him at a football game's fine. So I hug him. And then I turn to the kids and again, one of them's crying, but they're like big, fat, hot tears of joy. and I realize it means just as much to them. And they're not just coming to the football for a daft laugh. Sunderland has got under their skin and it's part of who they are and what they are and what it means to us as a group. None of it was performative. None of them were filming themselves to put on TikTok. It was just joy and happiness and man, Sunderland, man, what do you do to us? What do you?
Well,
what a club!
As if we needed any justification why we had that in joint top, but I think that was it. And I didn't even mention that Leo Hjelde got on as sub as well in that game, like he did against Coventry. But that's our 10. So we've ranked them in our. I said our top 5 we couldn't really split. So in joint second we had Xhaka signing and the 2 games against the visitors, and in our joint top spot we had the Coventry second leg at the Stadium of Light and our win against Sheffield United in the playoffs. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much to Andrew and Johnny. Thank you very much for your time as always. And of course, thank you to our listeners. Please let us know if you think we missed anything that should have been in the list, or if you disagree with any of our picks, because of course it was all done on the back of a fag packet as usual. And as I said, my memory isn't the best anyway. But yeah, let us know if you agree or disagree. Of course, we'll have loads more on the Have We podcast on our daily releases. But from us, it's bye for now.